Okay, good morning, everyone. So let's start our day. To start with, I will ask our necessary details. Suman, please. Sandeep,
Yes, sir.
are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I will request our admin once again. Suman, can you listen to us? Anyone from the campus technology team? Okay, maybe they are busy. So, okay, Suman and the team will give you the instructions a little later so we can start the day. Making it possible to come on this weekend. Many people they registered, but only you could make it to come to this workshop. So, friends, the workshop is on EFA, CFA, and CCA, and certainly, in our society, in every culture, basically there is a question whether there is a God, whether there is a soul, there is a birth, rebirth, etc. This sort of concept, and we will find that. People have always some doubts. So I was just wondering, perhaps this EFA, CFA has the same status. Everybody know what is EFA, CFA, and still there are so much confusion. And now to add the confusion, there is something called the CC also. And don't forget about there is a MLE method, there is a PLS method. So we'll talk about on it for the next 2 days. The timing are it's 10 to 11:30. The second session will start after a tea break of half an hour. So that will be from 12 to 1:30. Then there will be a lunch break of 1:30 to 2:30. Then third session 2:30 to 4. So we have three sessions of 90 minutes each. Then in the evening, we may have an additional session for your queries. So this particular, I will strongly request you, all of you, to put your mic on mute mode and don't write anything in chat. Anything means absolutely anything. Don't write anything in the chat. That actually is sort of a diversion to the resource person, whoever is speaking. So we'll keep a separate session about your queries. I know the queries are very important and you are here basically for solving your doubt. But at the same time, I assume that most of the doubts will be cleared in the presentation. So in the first presentation, it's Dr. Sandeep Singh, is assistant professor in Punjabi University Regional Center of IT and Management, Mohali. So he's one of the most qualified person to speak about EFA, CFA, and CCA. And in fact, he was the first person who introduced me to the composite and the CCA. He asked me that you should read about it, and there is something very novel coming up. He's working a lot. So I invited him also to interact with you. The audience involve so many of friends. They are just like the family members now. Many seniors are there. My contemporaries all are there. So it's not like something me and Sandeep have something to tell you. It's a sort of a anybody can contribute, but certainly maybe in the evening session so that the flow don't get disturbed. The second session, I will start with the R and the R studio. Fortunately, we don't require much knowledge of R. For these sessions, there are certain packages we will directly work. You don't require any prior knowledge of t-test, ANOVA, regression, or anything else. You don't require. So we'll method and PLS method and the CCA using RStudio. Now, first thing is basically I want you to appreciate RStudio and love RStudio because all higher things that's coming in the RStudio, like CCA, there is no other software. It's only in the RStudio. Likewise, when we talk about the whether endogeneity or any other such things, everything is coming in the RStudio. So the basic purpose is that you love RStudio and at the same time you cover these things. What we will not cover in these 6 sessions, we will not cover the regression, multiple regressions, mediation, moderation. I know they are very closely connected to the CFA, but we will not cover. For that, we will have a next workshop, maybe the next Sunday, or we'll plan someday. So now, without not taking much of the time, I invite Dr. Sandeep to start his deliberations, please. Dr. Sandeep.
Thank you very much, Neeraj sir. But first of all, I would like to say thanks to all of the organizers and the person behind the scenes who has organized this workshop. So today's section is related to the basics of the EFA, CFA, and the CCA. If I just give a grid view on the topic, so if I say EFA and the CFA, so these are the not a very new terms basically. In the academic literature, you can see in the last 20 to 30 years, you will find a lot of papers with the EFA and the CFA. Of course, CCA is a very new thing. So these are the generally abbreviations like EFA, CFA, CCA, and EFA stands for the exploratory factor analysis, and CFA stands for the confirmatory factor analysis, and CCA is basically confirmatory composite analysis. So friends, generally we are also a little bit confused with the methodology. Sometimes EFA there is a word factor analysis, and there is a two type of the factor analysis. Just you can say EFA and the CFA. So these are the main concern of today's session. So we will focus on the each aspects like EFA, CFA with the proper intentions, and so further the session will be about how to code the results and what we produce the tables. Generally, this session will assist all the participants how to code the results, what are the tables, and the different tables might be created in the RStudio. So let's start with today's presentation with the basics of EFA. So a little bit there is a problem. So my slide is not sharing, so I'm sharing again.
Now yeah. Okay.
So exploratory factor analysis. So I have explained exploratory factor analysis. So friends, every research starts with the objectives. Sometimes you create the objectives on the basis of the review of literature. If one of my favorite book, C.R. Kothari, there is a research process. The first step in the research is basically research problem formulation. So when you formulate a problem, then you also formulate some objective of your research. Sometimes your objective is like to determine the things. So in a phenomena, you determine some factor like you make the objectives like to explore the determinants of any particular things. And same time you also some of the I have seen the researcher have make the objectives to identify the factor from a phenomenon. So when such circumstances are analysis. So EFA is nothing but is a data reduction technique and data summarization technique. Generally in the research, most of the variables are correlated, which can be reduced to levels. So we have the larger data sets when we collect the data. So the data contains the information, and from the information we drag some knowledge, and finally we use a wisdom to apply that knowledge. So, friends, generally when we have the data, so there is a lot of information. Some information is generally observable, but some information is not generally observable. We will use the methods to drag some information. So, this is basically a class which deals with the factor analysis. When from the large data set, we explain the large data set into the small parts. Small parts means in the form of the factors. From the meaning, it's also clear. We explored some of the factor from the basically a phenomena on the data. We find some factors with. So for that purpose, we use the exploratory factor analysis. It is also a summarization technique. Summarization technique means is also explain what is the basic structure lying in the data. So further, you can say it is an interdependence technique. Interdependence technique means there is no independent or dependent variable. We just work on the with our variables. Our variables have the feature they are dependent. They are free from this concept whether they are independent or they are dependent. So EFA are designed for the situation where links between the observed and latent variables are unknown. Basically, I have introducing the one word latent variable or the So there are the different type of the variable in our data sheet. Generally, we make a questionnaire. Questionnaires, we make the statements. And in the context of EFA, these statements are we firstly see in the data whether there is any correlation. So that correlations make a clue that there can be some unobserved factor in the data. So thus the analysis is proceed in the exploratory model to determine how to what extent the observed variables are linked to their underlying factor. So that correlations make you clear that whether there is some factors which are basically comes from the variables or the indicator when we combine on the basis of the correlation. So, in a such a situation, we generally apply the factor analysis. So, generally, in the simple terms, I would like to say that we have collected the data and we have some information contained in the data. In the form of the factors, we drag some information. So, so we drag the information in the form of the factors. So from the large data sets, we find 2 or 3 factors or 4 factors which explain the major bunch of the information which is contained in the data. One more thing is important also. Okay, EFA apply on the metric data. So in order to apply the factor analysis EFA, so the researcher should know what is the metric data. So there are the different scales like interval, ratio, nominal, and ordinals. So we can also classify these scales into metric and the non-metric data. So metric scales are those scales generally which are not formed in the groups. If you say gender is a non-metric. Basically, when we calculate the gender, so gender is generally we found in the form of male and the female. So so one prerequisition of the factor analysis, or you can say the EFA, is the data should be in the metric form. So these are the some application of the factor analysis where we can apply the factor analysis. So we apply the factor analysis to identify the dimensions of the factors. Take the objective to to find the determinants of particular things. Sometimes we develop the scale. We have the intent to develop the scale. Do we want to develop some dimensions of the scale? So that is the CFA serves that purpose. It's used to identify the new smaller set of uncorrelated factors. Sometime in the marketing research, your objective is to find the uncorrelated factors from the data. So for that purpose, we can also apply that. It's also applied to a smaller set of the variables from the larger set for the use of on a subsequent multivariate analysis. So when we, we also apply this, when we choose the scales from the different cultures and we use their scale scores for the further analysis. So these are the some applications of the you can say the factor analysis. These are the some important terms which are related to the EFA. The first term is observed variable, latent variable, and items. Items generally we are as a researcher we are generally confused. Items are what? Items are those which you which is the basically items of your scales. But in the concept of EFA, we take it as a variables. And we have some observed variable. Observed variable means which is directly we measures, like we ask to the question to the any respondent. So kindly rate this, and he gave the 1 to 5 rating. So that is he is directly observed the things. Latent variable means those variable which are not directly observable. We have some some techniques to grab this construct. So that purpose we have just apply the factor analysis. So factor is nothing but it is the underlying dimension that explain the correlation among the set of variables. So it's the basic meaning of the factors in the point of view of the factors. Bartlett test of sparsity and Kaiser-Meyer-Olkin. So these are the prerequisition, or you can say the data. There should be a sufficient level of the correlation in the data. So for that purpose, we apply the Bartlett test of sparsity, which gives us the results, which test our hypothesis whether there is an appropriate correlation or not. And further, we use the Kaiser-Meyer-Olkin value, KMO. The abbreviation is mostly used in the research. KMO tells us whether your sample size is adequate to conduct the EFA. So correlation matrix is the first step in the factor analysis. First of all, every researcher who want to conduct the EFA, so they must have the knowledge about the correlation matrix. So what is the correlation matrix, and how we use, how we scale it. So these are some basic things. variance is the thing, the backbone of the behavior research. It's the reason why individual differences are the occurrence. So in the context of EFA, we use variable. Eigenvalue is one of the concept we use in the factor analysis. That is basically explain the total variance explained by the each factors. So factor loading, this is one. So one concept we use with the factor analysis. Factor loading is basically a correlation between the unobserved variables and the observed variables, or you can say it's the correlation between the indicators. So cross loading means when any statement, or you can say things or indicators, it has high correlation with one or two factors. So we consider that item is a cross loaded, means that is loaded into the two factors. So there are some solution in the EFA by which we can use or remove the cross loadings. So residuals are basically the difference between explained part and the unexplained part. So consume the data is the one matrix, and we say that in the matrix there is a variance. So we have some options where we can find the explained part and we can find the unexplained part. So when we minus the explained and unexplained part, then we comes with the residuals. It's a very wonderful example. When in that, I think 2015, I have attended a workshop of Dr. Neeraj Kaushik. Then they have given a wonderful example of for understanding of this for EFA. Suppose kitchen is 100%. So how I can explain the kitchen? Just one way is I start from the one. There is a cup in my kitchen, glass in my kitchen, jug in my kitchen, microwave in my kitchen, refrigerator. So there are the number of the things in my kitchen. So, but my research problem in each and every aspect. So I can explain the kitchen by this way. So I generally I'm not here going to just a statistical point of view, just to give you a glimpse how factor becomes the unobserved. Now I make these three factors from my kitchen items. One is utensils, other is the fruit, other is the electricals. So utensils is not available in this list you can see. So that is very basically the latent variable, you can say the unobserved variable, which is indirectly I calculate in the form of the factors. Okay. So if I go back, 100% kitchen means the so many items of the kitchen. But being a researcher, they are also measured with the shortest method. I explain the things. So I explain all the information in the three factor. Almost 60% of the kitchen I have explained with these three factors. So it's a data has reduction. So data how reduction, there are the many is there. So I left this thing, but with the 60%, I have explained the maximum part of the kitchen. Okay, so data I have formed in the form of the factors. So generally, I have discussed about the cross loading. So there is a one, say if you look on the factors, you can say the utensils has the same types of like crockery types of the things that I have covered in there. In fruits, I have covered all things which are most associated with the fruits. Similarly, electric kettle is like you can say the things which can be loaded here, also which can be loaded in utensils, which can be loaded in the electricals. So yeah, these things I have to avoid while using the factor analysis. So this is the format of the factor analysis. You can say, or you can say the EFA, exploratory factor analysis. So from the word is also clear, we have explored some factors from the basically a data, from the rough data. So now this structure is summarized. You can say now it's a good to explain. Now I can explain this kitchen in the best to best method with the form of the factor. So this way it is a data reduction technique. This way it is a data summarization technique. So this is the process, basically used for conducting a EFA. So the first step in the conducting in this process is the problem formulation. Second is construct the correlation matrix, determine the method, determine the factor, rotate the factor, interpret the factors, and determine model fit. So we talk with one by one with each factor. Problem formulation. Problem formulation is like BODMAS formula. Some of times we add the things, we remove the things, and we make the bracket. Sometimes we have a lot of things we have covered and we have to delete it. Okay, so first step is the problem formulation. Means the researchers, based on the reviews, try to find out some gaps and try to formulate a problem. In the problem, he make the objective. I will determine the factor. Recently, I am working on a project where I have just make an idea. Okay, what is the role of the government, perceived role of the government in this during pandemic? So I have formulated a research problem and uh, on the basis of my theory, on the basis of some research theory and judgment. But here, one point I would like to clear that okay, I have no idea. I have to explore something. So just to have the educated guess, I have my knowledge that this can be happened, but I'm not sure that this will be happen because that's why it's exploratory technique. So I have defined in the problem formulations. You can say either it is prior to the review of literature or after the review of literature. You can formulate your objectives of the research. Okay, what is the objective? Like suppose you have the objective of the research to find out the determinants or to find out some factor from the from the data set. So metric variables, I have also explained that technique works on this, and some other things we have to consider in our research design while we are applying the factor analysis, like what will be the sample size, how the statement will be measured, whether it's measured on the Likert scale, what if it is measured on the other non-metric way. So this problem can be occurred. So before starting EFA, our researcher should have a good understanding of all things. What is the review of literature, what is metric, non-metric, or how the you plan the your structure of your questionnaires, how the you will create the different sample sizes on which you can apply the factor analysis. So our researcher should have to clear all these things. So generally, I'm using the word factor analysis. Sometimes we use the word factor analysis. So we start with the search problem formulation for the EFA. So second step is we construct the correlation. So this steps comes after when we have collected the data. So we have make the correlation matrix. This matrix is just give you a glimpse of what is actually going on with the data, how the variable is correlated, what are the some negative correlations. So from that correlation, you will get a very educated guess of what you can perform, what you can whether there is a minimum amount of the correlation. Generally, you can apply. I would like also discuss that prior to this step, practically we here calculate the KMO value and Barley test of sparsity also. We will discuss this later in the table format. Uh, so next, you have to decide the method by which method you will extract the factor. So there are the two dominant factors, two dominant techniques like principal component analysis. Other is the principal axis factoring. Uh, there are also the technique like maximum likelihood BLS and unweighted least square. But mostly in the behavior search, generally we use this principal component analysis. So here I am also introducing the new word component. Components is also used for the factors because the purpose of the principal component analysis is to create the such a component which are uncorrelated with each other and to explain the maximum variance. And principal axis factoring basically used for the purpose in the mostly in the behavior search when your goal is basically to get the common variance from the indicator or the variables. So further, we have also technique maximum likelihood and PLS unweighted least squares. These are the further techniques which we can use, but mostly we prefer these two techniques according to our objectives. So after this, we have in the process we have to determine how many factors we can obtain from the uh, from the data which we have analyzed. So there are the different approaches, but basically two approaches are very famous, like a priori and based on the eigenvalue. So I prefer eigenvalue because when you have no knowledge about any prior phenomena, you just on the basis of eigenvalue, you can find out the factors. So a priori determination is basically when we have a prior knowledge about the factors. This is basically used when you have used any scale of foreign country in our country. So what we have done, we have just a knowledge this can be possibility, this factor can be good drag. So in such a circumstances, we apply this approach. Eigenvalue is basically about the explained variance. If the value of the eigenvalue is factor whose value is more than one. This is a bit a statistical concept, so might be in the analysis part it might be more clear. Scree plot is the another way. Mostly I don't prefer it, but searcher can use it. It's about the bend. When in the curve you see the bend in the curve. So where bends come, so it's decide your factors. Basically, if you say there in this there can be two factors when we conduct the factor analysis. So one other approach is the cumulative percentage of the variance. So it means when your all factors cumulatively explain the any phenomena. Like as I tested in the example of the kitchen, then I have chosen that there should be a 60% variance. So there is no any determined rule by 60%, but it is generally a common sense. If we explain the maximum variance should be more than the 50%. So it's a very quite fascinated terms you can say. Another way is that basically we applied the we determine the number of factor on the basis of the split half reliability. In this technique, what we have to we have to split the sample into two parts, and we see the loadings. If the suppose there is two sample A and B, suppose A sample has the good loadings of the factors, then we opt that in compare to the B factor. So these are the basically some techniques, or you can say the method by which you can determine the number of the factors from the data. So it's a bit complex, to explain, but I will try my best. Rotate factors. So rotations mean we just basically explain the factor analysis on like in the graph, if practically we do. So there are the different angles when we basically, as per best of my knowledge, we plot the graph and we say that if, when the item is on the one quarter, if we same substitute the factor in the different quarters with the same variance. So how many, how much variance could be explained by the with the minimum components. So there are so basically the purpose of rotation is our to maintain our variance, but to share the variance between the factors. So there are the some rotation available in the analysis part, like orthogonal rotation, which is done with the very mixed procedure. So rotation of the factor in which the axes are maintained at the right axis. So those are have good knowledge of statistics. They can understand these things practically. And in the while we are conducting the principal component analysis, we use this orthogonal rotation with the procedure of Varimix. And what remain the same, but the variance is shared with, but the total variance remain the same, but the variance is shared to the between the different factors. So sometimes the unimportant factor becomes the important while we are using this rotation. So orthogonal method of factor rotation that minimize the number of the variable with the high loading on the factor. So this is the main objective of it. Oblique rotation, this is basically done with the principal axis factoring. Okay, when axes are not maintained at the right side. So overall, the objective of this slide is basically there are the rotations available in the statistical analysis. You can use this rotation. These rotation are useful when you have the very few number of the factors, and you can say that by which you maintain the total variance, but the variance of other factor can be changed by applying these rotations. So these are very useful while using the factor analysis. So finally, we calculate whether you will calculate the factor score. If you want to use that scores for the further analysis, then you can calculate. So model fit is generally, as the best of my knowledge, I have not seen mentioned anywhere, but generally it is available for also in the EFA. Because it is the when it's the basically you can discrepancy between the your correlation, your first correlation matrix and the your reproduced correlation matrix. When you have come with the factors, so you will again with the factors and indicator to again reproduce the correlation. if there is a maximum discrepancy, or you can say the difference between the observed and the reproduced correlations, you can say your model is very poor. So finally, when we have dragged the factors and we apply the liability analysis. So for the liability, we have the one and only, it's a quite famous technique, and it's available. Back alpha. So we from the Cronbach alpha we find the liability. Sometimes it has happened. Your factors are basically it's a little bit common sense. If there is high correlation, the factor their Cronbach alpha maybe right, but sometimes it's happened because of the rotations. Your Cronbach alpha will be low. So that's why, and finally we take the steps to apply the Cronbach alpha. So this is the one of the important step in the EFA. You have to interpret the factor. So it's the experts work. You can say the generally uh, what are the factors you have extracted, or you give the naming, or for that purpose. So that naming should contain some meaning. So one of my observation that you just give that name which represent the all of the items. Mostly the student. So there are the so you should have to take advice of the seniors, or you can say your colleagues, what should be the naming, because when you start with the factor analysis, you have your own idea, but when you collect the data, your idea can be changed. You suppose that this item will go to this factors, but it's not possible, because what you think, it's not you can say all people is think on the same pattern. So these are the some things which you should keep in your mind while conducting it. So these are the if I go to the last this process. So I have covered this. So just a glimpse. So this is the technique process. In the process, you have to formulate the problem and construct the correlation matrix. Then you determine the method and determine the factor. Then you have to rotate the factors. Then interpret the factor and available when you apply any software like SPSS or Jamovi, like these softwares. But these are also you can use in the RStudio. So RStudio is very versatile. So I prefer we all should learn this thing. So when we have uh, completed the first part, we are here. So what type of the table are produced while we are conducting an analysis? So first table is mostly we use, that is Kaiser-Meyer-Olkin values, KMO value. The value should be more than 0.60. The researcher can see that in the literature, that you can easily find from the internet also what will be. But generally 0.60 to 0.95, you can take the value for your sampling adequacy. Sampling adequacy means your sample is adequate to run the factor analysis. Barley test is a sparsity is basically a sign of the correlation. Here there is two things happen generally. Sometimes generally when I have going to learn this factor analysis, what I do just run the Cronbach alpha on the all of the data. So that also give you the glimpse of whether there is a correlation available in the data. So but statistically, we have this test, Barley test of sparsity, which tests whether we have the accurate correlation, appropriate correlation, which is required to run the EFA for the factors. So next table is the communalities. It is basically represent to the uh, items shared variance with the to the total. In this table, we just understand we think the weather value is less than 0.5. So generally, we remove in some circumstances if the community is less than 0.5. Uh, this is the our main grand, you can say the main uh, table which you should have to quote. Just I would like to give your emphasis on the last, where I have in the table there is a cumulative percentage. In the cumulative percentage, mean the all of the four factors are explaining 62% of the part. So we can stop here. So generally, these blank spaces means when we conduct the analysis, so the softwares create the same numbers of the factor as you have the items. So generally with the some statistical method or some software will build, we just hide that things. So this table, if I explain this table, table explain that there is 62% of the variance from the total sample is explained by these four factors. So my eigenvalue, I can say the hairs, so eigenvalue is more than one. So I can choose any determined method, so by which we can select the factors, and we conclude that, okay, from this data set I have these four factors and which are explaining 62% of the portions. So this is well understood. As a reviewer of some journals, so, we accept these things. Okay, whether you are 62%, so this is not any denied things, and you will also say that, okay, there is no any permanent rule, you can say, but it's a certainly nothing. But at the end, you can say it is a common sense. So this is the rotated component matrix. Before rotated component matrix, we find the component matrix. So it explains the your loadings and the relationship between the your components. Like on the upper side of the column, you can say there is right 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this technique, in this table, where we have used the principal component analysis. So when we apply the component analysis, they give you the components. So mostly searchers are confused with the component and the factors who are on the who are at the earlier stage of their search. So they produce the components, and in the components they explain that this item has this much correlation with this factor. Okay, and there is like one value that is 0.473, which explain basically is a cross loading. So we suggest to avoid the cross loadings. Okay, so there is no problem if you delete the item or remove the item from the analysis. So there is one also thing, we also fix the loading value. We generally fix, our table will show the loading value is 0.30 or 0.40. So it is up to you if you want to. But generally, if you want to go for the higher statistics, loading is minimum loading is 0.50. Here are some tips, you can say, or my general observations. So first is about the number of items. So if you are want to develop a scale, or you want to apply the factor analysis on scale development, so I prefer there should be a good number of the items. Good numbers of the items, you should to maximize the items which you can reduce, which can collaborate into the samples. So sample size, sometimes it's a confusing. What should be the sample size? Generally, there is a rule. Your number of items should be multiplied with the 5. So if you have the 20 items, so you will multiply with the 5. Your 100 sample size is appropriate. Sometimes it's not happened. So you can also go with the multiply of the 4, but you should meet the assumptions like if low correlation. Suppose you have conducted the data, but there is a low correlation. Then what is the alternative? One alternative way, alternative is just to clean the data and see what are the some outer loadings, and see further. You can also collect some more samples which might improve the correlation into your data. And cross loading. So for cross loading, we have to take the decision. We have to remove it because it always disturb our analysis. So we have to decide the minimum loading. Minimum loading means we have to take the decision how much minimum loading we will contain, by which we can operate our further analysis. So there are some decision. So at the last, if I in the my first 2-3 slides, I have discussed that it is a series of procedures. So at each step, you have to take the decision while conducting the EFA, exploratory factor analysis. Been complete, and in the if we just go back, we have started the EFA, exploratory factor analysis, with the without any prior knowledge, just our some basis based on your experience. We have applied our knowledge. We make a questionnaires according to our knowledge, that factor we can derive from the data. In order to drive that factors, we have run the factor analysis. But after factor analysis, now you have the some knowledge and you have some you can say the base for going forward. So after EFA, the next step is you have to confirm the factor. So confirm means from the name it is clear that you should have to confirm whether which factor you have extracted. So whether they are actually license to them through the confirmatory factor analysis. Confirmatory analysis we starts with the some theories like suppose now we have the same data set. We have the theory that in this data set we there can be a four factors, there can be three factors, and these can be the indicators, and the indicator make this latent variable. So in contrast to EFA, CFA is appropriately used when the searcher has some knowledge of the underlying latent variable structure. So we start with the CFA with the prior knowledge if we have some underlatent variable structure. Underlatent variable structure means you have some prior knowledge that these are the items, these will constitute these factors. So the purpose of the CFA has confirmed the factor. So whatever factor we have, you know, uh, obtained from the factor analysis. In this process, we confirm the factor. On the basis of the knowledge of the theory, empirical search or the both researchers postulate the relationship between observed measures and underlying factor a priori, and then test the hypothesis structure statistically. So it means basically, the in the simple language, we from the prior knowledge, we statistically, empirically, we tested that model which we hypothesized from this uh, which we have make just from the our analysis part, which you can say from the EFA. From the EFA, we get some prior knowledge, and then in the CFA part, we will confirm that knowledge. But now we are not started with the zero. We have started some knowledge, some of the you can say the hypothesis, some of the you can say the logics. We start from the here. All of the process of confirming the factor analysis is just called the CFA, confirmatory factor analysis. So some of the underlying examples, generally we conduct the confirmatory factor analysis on uh, the, the software, like whether it's a covariance based software, what is a variance based software. So covariance based software are like MOS, and variance based software are like you can say PLS. So generally, I'm taking this example with the point of the MOS, which is a covariance-based software. So in the CFA, the such a hypothesis being testing. This is a period. Okay, we have hypothesized some model, and we test that model. And for the purpose of CFA, we have the required sufficient sample size. So there is a question of covariance-based SEM and variance-based SEM. In the covariance-based SEM, we have requirement of the large sample size, but in the variance sample size, we have some flexibility. Uh, so there should be a multivariate normality. Should be normally distributed, and there should not be outliers. So we should have two outliers, because our outliers in the data always disturb your analysis. So you should also keep the this thing in your mind. Okay, what are the missing values and the missing data in the data, and how to replace that missing value. Generally, it's a quite statistical, to explain the process. So first of all, we just explain that process. In the process of conducting CFA, you first of all you have to review the relevant theory and research literature to support the model specification. And here you, from the review of literature, you make the model. From the logic, you make the model. In the next step, you specify the model. Specify model means you make the diagram, equations, and how they will be run. And then you conduct the preliminary descriptive statistics like scaling, missing data, collinearity issues, outlier detection. You can say it's the prior step where you can also handle this step in data cleaning section also. Then you estimate the parameters in the model, and finally you assess the model fit and present interpret the results. So this is the mostly quite you can say lengthy process. Generally, I can convert it into this simple process. So on the basis of the prior knowledge, we formulate a model. So on the basis, we will make a model. Then we opt a selection technique, whether we use the variance-based SEM or whether we use the covariance-based SEM. Then we estimate the parameters, and most obviously, two things are very important here. One is the liability of the construct and the validity of the construct. Now I am using this word construct. So when we shifted to the after latent variables shifted to the next advanced levels. So when we say this unobserved variable, we use the word construct for them. So construct means basically represent to the common variance, because now from the different method we test the same model which we have used in the factor analysis. So validity of the construct, that is we will also I will also explain how we check the validity of the construct. And finally we model fit, we test the different model fits which are available here. So this is my first step. uh, by this way I formulate my model. This is on the basis of the prior knowledge. Suppose I have conducted the factor analysis and these factors are comes out, and I have the prior knowledge, okay, these factors, these items will go under these factors. So similarly, this model is based on the prior knowledge. You have the some clue, evidence, or logic. You can say, okay, what will be the your factors, what will be the later to the different items. So this is the first step, you can say, on which you make the diagrams. And in the diagrams, these are the loadings. Loadings are basically the correlations of the item and the observed factor. The variable. These are the loading. These are the basically coefficient of the correlations, and these are the covariance. So covariance, because I have we have the different type of the software. Some are the covariance based SEM, some are the variance based SEM. So this is basically tested on the covariance based SEM. So these the two-sided error represent to the covariance. So here we just confirm, okay, whether in reality the factor is present here. So for that purpose we use the different techniques like convergent validity or discriminant validity, and then we estimate the parameters. So next step in the factor in the CFA, we estimate the parameter. First of all, we see the loading. We check the loading, whether the loading are significant. In the covariance based SEM, we have the t-test available, or you can say the critical ratio is available, which confirm that your loadings are significant. Then we confirm in the composite reliability. Composite reliability means whether this items has the liability, sufficient liability to constitute this construct. So we check here construct liability, and here we also study the variance explained. You can say, so mostly we prefer the variance explained. Variance explained, like average variance explained is one terms. Uh, uh, that explained with how much the variance, total variance explained by these terms to explain this factor. So that is comes under the convergent validity. So reliability and the convergent validity. In the CFA, we conduct a composite reliability that should be 0.70, but it should be should not be more than 0.95. Like in this table, you can see these are the values of the construct reliability, composite reliabilities. Okay. So that should be not be more than 0.95. Also, average variance extracted. Average variance extracted is what basically we scare all the loadings and take the average. So that constitute the average variance extracted. Average variance extracted is basically represent your convergent validity. If your average variance extracted should be more than indicator constitute a construct, and the construct is the items are converged into the construct, and there is a good proof of the convergent validity. And similarly, if your value of the composite liability is more than or equal to more than 0.7 or more than 0.7, then it is the proof of the composite reliability of the constructs. So discriminant validity, there are some other classical criteria to calculate the discriminant validity. So most used criteria is Fornell-Lacker criteria, in which we compare the correlations with the square root of AB with the interconstruct correlations. If the AB value is the more than the interconstruct correlations, then you can say it's the evidence of the discriminant validity into the discriminant validity of the construct. Validity means how the items are converged into the factor and that items are making a construct. It means these items, if I have the convergent validity, it means these items are making a construct that items are converged into these factors. This item convergently explain this factor. And what is the discriminant validity? Discriminant validity means this factor is discriminant from the other factor. It means these items, suppose this item is sufficiently loaded in this factor, so we can say that this factor is totally discriminant, is it different from this factor because the items of the this construct has the low correlation with the concept with this construct. So this is a simple explanation of the discriminant and convergent validity. Uh, most in these days, most preferable technique to calculate the discriminant stand for heterotrait monotrate ratio of the correlation. So heterotrait monotrate correlation should be less than 0.85. The concept is given by the Professor Georg Hensler. Generally in the covariance-based SAM, this HTMT was not available, but now, as per best of my knowledge, now in the new editions in the MS software also HTMT is also available. But it's quite easy if the researcher has a little bit understanding of the correlation between the construct, they can manually also calculate this HTMT. Finally, we are here for the model fit in the covariance based SAM. Just what we then we have the in the observed correlation and expected correlation. Correlation, we compare the matrix of observed correlation and the expected correlation. Then we say the discrepancies. On the basis of discrepancies, we would decide whether model is ever fit. So some of the model fit criteria are available to us, like chi-square divided by degree of freedom. The value, these are the threshold values. Say that value should be less than 3. P-value for the model SV, that should be greater than 0.05. CFA, comparative fit index. So that value should be the value from 0 to 1. The value more 0.9 is also acceptable. Goodness of fit index, aggregate goodness of fit index. These some index are available by which we can evaluate our you can say model. Standardized means square of the residual. The value that should be less than 0.8. Root means square error of approximation. So these some we have available this for the calculating whether our model is fit or the not. So after CFA, we have the two ways are open. When we have started from the EFA, when we have explored the factor, then we have confirmed the factor. Once the factor is confirmed, then we have the two ways are open. Like either we move to the SAM or either we moves to the you can say the other techniques like comparison of the CFA, in which we can do the invariance testing, we can do the multi-group analysis, etc. So this is the second part of this presentation I have completed. Now I'm going to start with confirmatory composite analysis. So I will take a little bit break for just 1 minute. So this is the so this is the little bit you can see the previous slides what I have explained to you. And from this, you know, from the understanding of these two concepts, from EF and CFA, we can write a very good research papers, because these techniques, EF and CFA, are still in the fashion. So these are the wonderful technique of, you can say, the skill development, or to satisfy the objective, like to find out the. So for that purpose, you can use this techniques in confirmatory factor analysis. We make a model, and we test the model, estimate. We check the estimate and the parameters. Most obviously, we check the reliability. We test the convergent validity, whether there is a reliability construct is like which we have formulated from the items, and the convergent validity, whether the item converge the factors, whether all the items making a factor. We test these things, and then we have discussed the discriminant validity. For that, I have discussed the Fornell-Ecker criteria and HTMT. So from this way, we can test the discriminant validity of the construct. And finally, I have discussed the model fit. You can say this is subject to technique also. Like in PLS, there is no model, but in covariance based SEM, we use this model fit indices for the purpose of uh, examining whether our model is fit or not. So, friend, now the third part of this session is I'm going to start. That is confirmatory composite analysis. This is a very new type of the analysis. You can say similarly the name is bit is same as other two analyses are like EFA, CFA, and the confirmatory composite analysis is just about when after the when we have constructed our latent constructs. So when we deal with latent constructs in the form of the composites, so it is related to the analysis or the measurement of the composites. So composites is a new methodology, you can say, which is used by some researchers, because sometimes they use the word composite for the constructs. So let's start with the confirmatory composite analysis. The concept of CCA is introduced by Georg Hansler in 2014. The concept it is produced by the Professor Georg Hansler. So there is a CCA. There is a they explain that there are don't calculate they calculate the factors in calculate the latent variance in form of the composites. So CCA is a subtype of the structural conditioning modeling that discusses the composite models. So it is a bit confusing how it's a type of the structural conditioning modeling, but generally CCA give you the new look on the on the previous things. We whether we have the construct. So if we have the construct, so how we can measure the construct as a reflective and the formative. So I have now introduced the new word reflective and the formative, and later we will explain what is this. So the researcher has begun with referring the measurement model step as the PLSM as CCA. So here at all 2020, they explain that when there is a we explain the composites when we use the PLS. So there is a methodological difference. So in order to understand the concept of CCA, you little bit have you have to study the historical prospectus. In 1980s, there was a person Harman Wood who developed the PLS software, but there were they not developed the software. They developed the PLS technique, but there was no software for the PLS. That time covariance based SEM has got the similarly the covariance based SEM has been introduced. So the covariance based SEM had got the good popularity of the I think of the PLS. Then in 2004, Professor Ringel make the smart PLS software. The purpose of the software is the same. Basically, they tested the model in the regression for the predictive purpose. But generally, there is a methodological difference. Like in the MOS, we use the word construct. So they Adrington 2014 suggests that whatever we measure the model in the PLSM, that consider that model as the composites. So basically, you can say that the school of thought which measures the measurements under the technique of the PLS, that they call the composite according to the here at all. But uh, Professor Hansler has some you can some different view. He has in 2014 he write the different one research paper. He explained that we measure the model in the different way. Like there can be a reflective measurement, and there can be causal formative, and there can be an artifact. So, what is this reflective measurement, causal formative, and the artifact? We are more acquainted with the terms reflective measurement and the causal formative. Reflective measurement means when our the items of the our items of the construct is the reflective. So that time our items are the reflecting of the construct. So what is the basically construct? So if I go, so use this. This is called. I use this word construct for this. So in the PLSM methodology, they are use this word composites. So there is a lot of confusion between. So what we have to use the word for the whether we have to use the word construct or the whether we use the word the composites. So generally, from the my understanding, so and little bit I have taken help from the scholars. So I explain into the three format. There is a three type of the construct, like reflective measurement, causal format, and an artifact. When we apply the covariance based SEM, we can only measure the uh, reflective models. So now let's see what is this reflective model. Reflective models, you can say, take an example. Suppose I have questionnaires and I have to make a question for the diet, and I have the question like, yeah, I eat healthy food. I don't eat much junk food. I have that. So each and every items are the reflection of this construct. You can say reflection of this construct. So each and every item is the reflection. This is the main feature of the any reflective construct. Reflective measurement model are the backbone of the behavior search. Mostly we use the reflective models in our behavior search. So construct causes the indicator. It means that the construct, please look at the arrows, the construct now causes to the indicators. So it means the construct is the cause of this indicator because these indicators are reflection. So the scale does not represent any construct. In the reflective model, the scale is not represented because that is not represented to any full scale by by these items. Uh, Take measurement error in the count of the at the item level. So now the error is on that. If we consider that this is our dependent variable, this is our independent variable, then error contains on the items. So the meaning of the construct. If in the reflective model or the you can say reflective measurement, we drop any indicator. So the dropping of the indicator does not change the meaning of the any particular construct. So there is a one. So the so what is the basically correct in the reflective models? Your items are interchangeables. So you can drop the items if they are not fit in the models. So there is a furthermore one more example like hotel satisfaction. In the hotel satisfaction scales, we the reflective items are I appreciate the hotels. So basically, I ask the question to the respondent from the different way about the same things. So from this, applying this, items like the second item is I am looking forward to staying in the hotel. I recommend this hotel to the other. Basically, I ask the same question in a different format. So these types of the you can say constructs, you can say you can call the reflective constructs. This reflective concept we will discuss in the later slides. So this is the one type of the you can say the construct like the reflective construct. Next is the causal formative. Causal formative till 2014 I was just I just feel it is a very complete complete construct, it means when the your indicator of your construct explain to, because now this indicator cause the construct. So it means they cause the construct, but they are not totally explaining to this construct. It means there is some error is left. I was confused while using the PLSM, because in PLSM there is no error. So we just assume that okay, all the indicator when 100% explain to this construct, explain to this construct, then it is a formative measurement. But in the Haslop view is different. We can't explain the causal form the 100% of this construct, because always remains with the error. Error means some residual always remains same. So take example. Suppose thus we this construct, and I asked this question. The service is good. This is about the service of a, you can say, of the hotel. The person is friendly. The room are clean. Now I am asking the different things. Now I am asking the different strings when I plot this in this model. So there should be the regression between E1 to this construct X. So basically, my E1 is a cause to this particular construct. So here I am not considered with the loading. In the formative models, I am considered with this loading. Here I will take care of the weight. Okay, what will be the regression weight is given by what will be the regression weight which comes between this and this. So the feature of the basically causal formative construct is the indicator causes the construct. So indicators makes the construct, and there is no reason to expect the measure are correlated. So we assume that in this example, we can say that okay, there is no correlation between this construct. So the scale score does not represent the construct. So all the scales are not represented in a particular construct. And we take the measurement error into the account on the construct level. So we at the construct level we choose the measurement error, and dropping an indicator increase the measurement error and change the meaning of the construct. So if we drop any indicators, so that will change the meaning of the construct. Okay, if we drop the indicators here, that means our residual will be high. So generally, I believe that from to know that there is also error. Sometimes we make the construct, we use the different item to explain the any construct, but practically we think it is very difficult to explain the 100% part of anything. So, but generally we can use this causal formative model to explain the phenomena in the good level. So this is called causal formative construct. This is the last type of the construct you can get artifact. This is the invention or the main focus of this Stozic presentation. So artifact is a you can say like it's a we use the word composite for the artifact. So uh, composites are basically represent to the identity which is 100% explained. So has to explain it into the different sum, they explained it as the term artifact should be understood in the broad sense. So we should have the artifact should understand the term in the broad sense. Broad sense means artifact means like when we construct anything. Okay, so I will try to explain this in a best way. There are the design constructed with the formulate and entity. Like a designer formulator, suppose we are the design, we design the anything, we choose these are the elements which make any entity. Means we perfectly designed the thing. We know if we remove this element, the design will not be complete. So when you are designing the artifact, so we design, we act as a designer. So means we select some variables which totally complete make an entity which should be perfect and which explained the 100% or to the construct. It is related to the design science aiming to specific type of marketing instrument. Generally, really good, good news for the marketing. Those are in the marketing field, because the artifact which is discussed by Professor Dr. Hansler is came from the marketing. The searcher has to think like a designer. So searcher had thinks to designer. Designer means when you make a emergent variable, use the emergent variables to constitute an entity which is perfect. Perfect mean which is 100% explained. The idea behind is that artifact, the whole is greater than the sum of its part. So it means when we explain a 100% part, when we use the whole item, and so it is always greater than to explain the things into the parts. Take example. Brand equity. Professor Hensler chose example. So brand equity with these emergent variables, brand awareness, brand association, brand properties, make a design artifact. And you can see, please see, this is the representation of construct in the hexagon. So the what are the so means these variables created an entity which is 100% complete. When we design the construct, in that we have used the different first level just second level variable to design a construct. We design artifact. So Professor Hansler told that when we examine the composites, that is called we confirmatory composite analysis. So what are the feature of an artifact? The indicator to make up the construct, high correlation is common but not required. The scales co-represent the construct. Here the difference is that the scales co-represent the contrast, means this is the now 100% identity. Does not involve measurement error. Dropping an indicator alter the meaning of the construct. Put in phases, if we say it's as a design, you can say if we remove the x1, so total design will be incomplete. But when we use each and element, all the element completely make a perfect entity, then you can say it is an artifact. So analysis of the artifacts, analysis of the composites, basically when we confirm the composites is related to the confirmatory composite analysis. So if we plot all together, so this is the example of reflective construct. This is the causal formative. Also we use the word formative. And this is my artifact. There's a difference between the causal formative and artifact is that there is a measurement error and there is measurement not. So evaluation of the composites, evaluation of the artifact, we can say it's related to the confirmatory composite analysis. So here are the how some models. So we measure reflective models by estimating the loading and the significance of the loading. We check the indicators reliability, and then we check the construct reliability. Then we find the average variance extracted. Basically, similarly as we have done in the CFA, we similarly we test the loadings and their significance of the loading. Then we check their convergent and discriminant validity. Then we test the nomological validity. Nomological validity means we check our construct has some relationship with their prior tested constructs or predicted validity. In this, if we have more than 2 construct in a model, then we also check the predictive validity through the, like in the PLSM, there is a PLS predictive variable. So this is the basically assessment of the reflective measurement. So this is the assessment of formative model, or you can say causal formative. We check the convergent validity. In the convergent validity, we check the redundancy analysis. We check the indicators multicollinearity. So we check whether there is a if there is a high correlation between, then it can disturb the regression weights. So size and significance of indicator weight. So here I would like to focus your attention that in the assessment of formative and the artifact, we measure the weights, regression weights. So size and significance of indicator weight, we check the size and significance. Then we think about the what is the contribution of indicator, means which weight is the more important. And then we check the predicted validity. Predicted validity means when we chose those construct for the further purpose. So this is my general experience on the basis of my a little bit of my experience, what I have studied from the literature. There is no full-fledged, procedure, but generally, best of my understanding, I prefer this. These are the assessment criteria to understand or to measure the composite. Like we should have to, at the first step, you to understand the, you should have to measure the indicator's weight. Then you should have to check the indicator's multicollinearity, then the significance size of the indicator weight, finally contribution of the indicator. This is make the difference, like finally model fit. So there is a conflict between the thoughts. If we use the PLS, so there is no some scholars or developers say there is no need of model fit, but Professor Georg Hansler, uh, uh, they have the opinion that a model fit should be required, and model fit is the global way to test any model. So we have the some or exact test for the model fit. So fit indices mean, like I have discussed in the later slides like CFA. So here is we have the only one best tool we can measure by that is standardized mean root square error. So the value of that should be 0.8. The test for exact means so they prefer to use bootstrapping, and by bootstrapping they create the intervals and also check the quantile value, 5% quantile value, or you can say interval value to test this SRMR value. So if so they test this value in this way to analyze the composites. So these are the some examples of the artifacts uh, in the researcher can make or you can understand the concept in more clearly when you have some prevention strategies. Basically, these are the designs. We in the act as a design, okay, like teacher development program, public health interventions, user interface design, and marketing mix. So you make the design and make a perfect identity, and you test your model. So these are the other form of the CCA. Like CCA can be this, so your design can be like this, or your design can be like this. So it's quite similar to the CFA, but these are the now composite represent with the hexagon. So this has the predictive relevance also. We can simultaneously plan the composite and test the relationship between the composite. Like these hexagons are the basically represent to the composites, and these are the like you can say constructs. So this is the upcoming book, which is has the complete knowledge about the artifacts and complete knowledge about the CCA, how it is conducted with the example. The book contains, programs, coding of the R studios, also coding of the R studios, and similarly they also use their own software, Danco. Professor Georg Hansler, and the book's name is the Composite-Based Structural Questioning Modeling and Analyzing Latent and Emergent Variable. In the artifact, we use the word emergent variable rather than the latent variable. So finally, we are here with the exploratory just to comparison with the three. What is the basically you can say the common and what is the differentiate EFA, CCA, and the CFA. So in the EFA, we use the principal component analysis. We mostly use the total variance and explain the find the components which explain the maximum variance, total variance. And in the confirmatory factor analysis, we use the common variance techniques. Basically, we use the maximum likelihood and explain the what is the common into a construct. It is exploratory in the nature. So EFA explain the things like you have no any prior idea, and you just on your basis of education gets or educated guess you apply that and find some factor, and this has the both of the nature. Similarly, at a time it can explore and it can confirm, and it has the confirmatory nature only. Analyze independent dependent variables separately. So in exploratory, it's interdependent. To independent dependent, we have separately tested. It analyze independent dependent together. Analyze all variable together as measurement model. So as a measurement model means when you are not only you want to confirm the factor, not to plot any regression relationship object data reduction. The objective of confirming measurement model and the prediction of the dependent variables. So it has the both of you can say the objective. First, at the first stage, it confirm the model. Then the prediction, they predict the model. Objective is confirming the measurement model. So measurement model means your outer model. So how a measure to check the construct's reliability, convergent validity, all these things comes under this measurement model. Orthogonal rotations, composites are correlated. Sorry. So we have used the rotations. We not there use any rotations. So we just check the whether the composites are construct scores are correlated. Uh, so reliability for that we have the Cronenberg alpha. We typically use the composite reliability. Here we also use the composite reliability. Discriminant validity for purpose is available in the CCA. Here we also check the convergent validity for the effective measurement model. So other type of validity are discriminant validity that is same for both. Factor score. So lastly, the factor scores make the construct definitely they explain to a scale. Score applies to a structure. Factor scores and sum scores are often used to the multiple regression in the CCA construct composite score applied to the structure modeling. So construct latent factor applied in the structured modeling. So finally, these are the some differences. We will also share the material of the some paper from where we have taken. You can read it or you can understand from your point of view. So the concept, finally, the you can say the concept of the CCA is in on developing stage. There are a lot of counterparts are going on here. You can say rivalry is good. Some says that okay, we the methodology to test the reflective and formative model and to testing this reflective and formative model in the PLSM techniques with the new methodologies are the composites and some other point of view that okay, we can classify the latent variable into two parts like uh, reflective and for causal formative, and then we classified the other composite like artifact as a composite. So there is a lot of difference in views going on. So still this concept is on a developing stage. So in future I expect there may be more clarity. And so this is all about my presentation. Thank you very much for the kind listening. Lastly, I will share some of my articles with you just for the purpose for the scholars to how to write the results of CFA factor analysis and more heavily about some CCA.
Excuse me, Sandeep.
Yes, sir.
Shall we do it in the next session? Because the first session time is already over. You
Okay, sir.
comfortably start it, and
Yes,
then
sir.
we'll start at 12.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So I'll request the admins to please stop the recording.
Sure, sir.
Okay. Suman, you may please instruct the participant about any necessary guidelines from your side.
Shall I instruct now or?
You can share now.
Okay. So I think we have shared one link yesterday. We sent a mail with the link of the portal.
Okay.
So if you log into the portal, you'll be getting two things. One, all the files that are required for this particular session. You can download it from there. And subsequently, all the videos, the recording will be available in the same portal. And your certificate also you can download from the portal. So there are three links there: files, videos, and certificates. So you can log in and you can download the files and download the certificate after tomorrow. Certificate will be available only after tomorrow. And your login ID is your email address and password is password. It is written in the mail. So whatever login you have given while registering for this particular event, that email, same email will be your login ID. The password is all small, PASSWORD. That is the password. So we are here. If any issues you are finding while logging in, you can let us know. We'll guide you. So we have given an email address, support@campus.technology. So do not send mail to Akshata. If you have any issues, we can discuss it here, or you can send an email to support@campus.technology. So we'll help you out from that.
Thank you, Suman. So let's take a break here for now 25 minutes or so. And at dot 12, we will start. And we'll start with Sandeep's paper. He will share his papers. You can be here, just you can close your camera and put it on mute mode. Otherwise, you can log in again. The details will be same. Thank you, everyone.